doesn't work like that. That if we if we cultivate the seeds of kindness, of being present, we have to keep cultivating them. We have to water them. We have to nourish them. We have to tend them. So we can have great seeds, but they can be planted in not such a great environment. Someone could be endowed with a very brilliant mind, but be in an environment that nobody cares, or there are no books, or there's no education. And those seeds of that brilliant mind never get watered. They don't have the right conditions to flourish. The same is said is true of the Dharma, that we are all very fortunate to not only have heard Dharma teachings, heard teachings like this particular one, but also be in position where we have the capability and we have the support to be able to practice. So we have the ability for the seeds that we are planting to be tended and flourish. This may not always be the case. So with karma, first off, we have the seed we're planting, the intention. And intention really means what we turn our mind toward over and over and over again. I mean, it may be that, this is intention, but every action has as its predecessor some mental state or mental view. So the mental view that we have, that in turn shapes our character, in turn leads to our action, is affected by a particular environment that we're in. It's affected by the things that we do over and over and over, or repeatedly engage in. So let's say we're in a grumpy, irritable person as our kind of fiber. Impatient. If, as that person, we turn our mind to loving kindness over and over, we turn our mind to being present, we turn our mind to generosity, we turn our mind over and over, then it may be that there's a basic DNA construct, but the seeds will grow in a way that's in accord with that person and the outcome looks unique to that particular person. If someone is very fearful, if they keep watering the seeds of fear and anxiety, and you look down the line, you get a very different person than if someone is basically very anxious and they keep watering the seeds of equanimity, the seeds of generosity, the seeds of being in this moment. Their fiber may be anxious, but the person, that is the character that is cultivated, is very different. So when we're coming to do Zazen over and over again, and we're continually trying to live according to the precepts, to live ethically, to turn our mind to being responsible, to caring for others, and we just keep doing that and 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 keep doing that, we may not get rich. We may not even have a house to live in. We may not have clothing. But the kind of person we become can be actually very satisfied, very happy. The Dalai Lama keeps emphasizing that throughout the world there are hundreds of thousands, millions of people who have very little in terms of food, clothing, shelter. And yet, because of the state of their mind, they can be happy. Now, we know just from basic social science research that people who are in abject poverty, people who are really in severe pain, that usually isn't the case. Maybe for some of the great sages that was the case. But by and large, people can be quite satisfied with very little. On the other hand, people can have a lot. Can be well-off, well-to-do, house, job, everything else. And if the mind is not satisfied, if the mind is not at peace, if the mind does not have any harmony, they can be in hell. So when we talk about karma in Buddhism, when we talk about Zazen in Buddhism, We're talking about how do we cultivate equanimity, balance, how do we cultivate being present with whatever circumstance arises, so that our basic character is not dependent, predicated upon the particular environmental conditions that we're in. The other thing about this issue of karma is the Buddha's teaching of the two darts, which I'm sure we've heard many times. The Buddha said that it's like a warrior or somebody who gets an arrow, gets stuck with an arrow, and they have the initial pain from the arrow. Well, what their mind does with that arrow, all the blaming, the judging, the anger, the hatred, is like sticking another arrow in themselves. And he says often that's what happens with us, is because we have a human body, we're going to experience discomfort. It's a given. First noble truth. We have a human body. It hurts sometimes. No way around it. Just the way things are. But this second part of that is we have a human body and it goes through its human body things. If our mind is not feeding, if our mind is our volition, if our karmic actions are not feeding dissatisfaction, dismay, but instead are feeding harmony, equanimity, loving kindness, then even though we may have a body that is not very satisfying, not working the way we'd like it to work, and I guarantee as we get older it's going to be less and less working the way we'd like it to work. But even under those circumstances, our fundamental ability to be present, effective, and enjoy our life is not changed. It can be stable. Now, that's just a real quick swoop of karma. We're going to, in the Sangha program, we're going to discuss it in great detail. And in other times, we spent lots of weeks on karma. But essentially, the thing that's important is what we turn our mind to is the essential volition. We turn our mind to skillful things. We have more skillful outcomes. Turn our mind to good things, equanimity, compassion, loving kindness. We have more skillful outcomes in terms of our character. And of course, the kind of character we become, people respond to us differently. If we're a whining, self-pitying, small-minded, greedy person, people respond to us differently, and so the world then doesn't work as well. If, on the other hand, our character is refined, if our character has a heart that is loving, if our character is one that's equanimous and able to really see lots of people, then the whole world responds to us differently. So we have the karma of our intention, our volition, what we turn ourselves to. We have the cultivation of our particular character. And of course, the longer we do a practice, the more we cultivate a particular kind of character, a particular kind of way of being. The world then responds to that way of being. And that is different than social preference. We prefer to have a certain kind of clothing, we prefer to have a certain kind of medical insurance, we prefer to have a certain this, certain that. And those two are not necessarily the same. There's overlap, of course. And lastly, that as we do Zazen, more and more we do Zazen to be completely present, to be completely accepting, to be completely in this body at this time, then the Buddha says that's the karma that ends karma.